we have not one, not two, but three great projects and some amazing panelists as well. Hi guys, welcome to the Human and the Machine channel, where we talk about anything and everything blockchain. I am Plawi, your co-host, the Human, and with me,
Hikaru, also known as the Machine. So be sure to hit that like button, show some love, subscribe, and also hit that bell icon to get the latest notifications on our channel.
That's correct. Thank you very much, Machine. And today, very special episode. We have not one, not two, but three great projects and some amazing panelists as well. Machine, what do they all have in common?
Good question. It is none other than the landslide fact that they are all from the Avalanche blockchain ecosystem.
That's hot.
Exactly. Avalanche has been absolutely on fire, very strong community. And I think it's great to have all of these representatives, right, from each of their respective projects.
Yep.
And really just catch up on what's going on. You know, what are they working on? So very excited to have you all. So who do we have today?
Well, we have from Verso, we have the CEO, their CEO, Gregor Arn, from Pangolin, Chen, COO, and Bal and Toke Matrix from Elk Finance. How's that, huh? So, guys, thank you very much for being with us today. How are you all doing today?
Great, thanks.
Great.
Good.
Doing excellent.
Doing really well. Thanks for having us on.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. So, shall we start? Gregor, tell us a little bit about Verso, how things are going.
Yes. So Verso is, I guess, for people who haven't heard about us, we are a very young project. We're about 6 months old on Avalanche. We are bridge builders. We are connecting DeFi to traditional finance. And the way we're doing this is by enabling a standardized way how financial products can be distributed to custodial regulated e-wallets. So we are coming from the e-wallet space, very traditional world in that sense, that custodial wallets need to be regulated as such. But the reality of the matter is there is over 3,000 e-wallets all over the world that are regulated today, and they are serving the next, I should say, the next generation of financial users today. Crypto is like the phase after that, where people will come after that. But today, these e-wallets serve hundreds of billions of users, actually, mostly in emerging markets. It is very difficult to connect them to DeFi. It is very difficult to connect them to also traditional finance when it comes to microfinance. And this is our mission. So in summary, Verso, we are not building products, we are connecting. We are the bridge builders and basically bringing these DeFi products to new people who have never been in crypto before.
Well, it's great, right? Everyone is I mean, it's so important to have these bridges, right? Because everyone is doing stuff. It's quite like all over the place. So we definitely need that. Thanks a lot, Gregor. And Leo, Pangolin, tell us a little bit about Pangolin and a little bit about yourself, please.
Yeah, definitely. So my name is Leo. I'm the COO of Pangolin Exchange. Nice to meet everyone. We are one of the largest decentralized exchanges on the Avalanche Network, which is really exciting with Avalanche growing, with the Avalanche Rush program. So many projects are coming, existing projects are growing, like Verso and Elk. It's great to see. And so the services we offer are mostly swaps and deep liquidity so that users can swap for the tokens they want, and projects like Elk, like Verso, can fundraise, load their liquidity into our app, and start having users trade and invest. So we're really excited to see Avalanche grow and just have a nice chat about DeFi today. Thanks for having me on.
No, thank you, Leo. And finally, Bal in Toke Matrix. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your project and yourselves?
Sure. So hi, everyone. I'm Bal. I'll let Toke Matrix introduce himself later. So just to introduce Elk, basically, we're also bridge builders. but we are basically focusing on cross-chain interoperability. And so we're building basically an ecosystem that makes it easy to move value and to move data across blockchains. We also run our own DEX on currently 6 chains, and we support 6 chains with the plan to support many more by the end of the year and expand the range of services that we offer on top of the Elk ecosystem.
Okay, wonderful. Guys, one question. Let's start, well, the way we were doing it. Gregor, have you felt the difference with all this big push Avalanche has had in the last few months? Did you feel any difference? What was different or what was better from this huge exposure?
Yes, I guess we certainly felt it. I mean, the energy is like is virtually flowing through the net, and you can totally see how the exposure of Avalanche in general is helping the Avalanche project as well. I guess you know, we've been seeing also new people coming to Verso in our communities. We've had quite a steady growth, especially also in the Chinese geography. And we are right now at this point where we're trying to figure out how we can engage these people more, but it's really new people that come first to Avalanche, and then also obviously as a second step discover the projects on Avalanche once they kind of have tried the Avalanche ecosystem and have seen what the potential is behind.
Beautiful. Machine. No.
Yeah, let's also actually give Toke Matrix a chance to introduce himself as well. Sometimes a human forgets.
Yeah, that's a lot of times. Toke Matrix, I'm sorry, bro.
No worries. Thank you. So yes. So I'm on a team with Bal. So I come from a more academic background. Currently still in academia, working on sort of like mathematical econ and AI and finance topics, and sort of like trying to give like sort of like more sort of strategic medium to longer term vision to the project, and sort of like trying to see like where DeFi can be going in the next 5 to 10 years, and sort of like how we're trying to position ourselves now for that future, to build that future in a way that makes the system like sort of like that really like allows sort of like the mainstream to see all the advantages of the DeFi space over a traditional financial system, the fiat system. So I think that's a huge. I think right now we're sort of still operating very much like DeFi as a whole is sort of like very much operating in this small crypto space, and even a small subset of crypto investors are active in DeFi. And I think in the next 10 years, this will like completely shift. Will become a huge challenger for the traditional financial system, and in a good way. We want to transform. We want to sort of like I think what DeFi has the potential to is to transform the things about a traditional financial system that cause crises, that cause instabilities, and turn these into a better system if we set things up the right way.
Interesting.
Got it. Okay. Very nice. So, back to kind of like the question about Avalanche. Each blockchain has its own community, and they seem to have like its own period when it just surges and lots of user activity. So, Leo, I would like to ask you, right? What do you think is behind this sudden surge behind Avalanche?
Yeah, that's a good question. All 3 of our projects have been around for a while, and just seen Avalanche was tiny for a long time, and then all of a sudden it grew. And I think the 3 major catalysts are one, there's a really good bridge right now, the Avalanche bridge that just came out. Cutting edge technology, super fast, very cheap, from Ethereum to Avalanche. That's the first catalyst. The second one is obviously the Avalanche Rush program, which is an incentives program funded by the Avalabs team who builds Avalanche. It started at $180 million when it was announced. I think it's worth something like $600 to $700 million now. And that program is to kind of fund projects and users to come build here, as well as fund the native projects to grow more users. And that's really exciting. So big projects like Aave, Curve, SushiSwap, they're all coming. And then finally, this network was one of the best layer 1 networks in terms of technology already. It's built very strongly academically. It has a very good engineering team building the network at Avalabs. And I think people are just finally realizing like, wow, this is a really great network to be on. So fast, so cheap, so professional. So yeah, those are the three main reasons that I'm seeing.
Yeah, maybe to add, like I also think now the recent announcement with institutional capital coming in, Avalanche has investors and has capital, and I think it's now, this is really I mean, it's trivial in one way, but on the other hand, if you think about it, it's now Avalanche is really coming to this phase where you can I guess fuel growth, right? You're getting into this growth phase, and capital is really kind of a it's great to have in this space, and we can expect to see much more.
Good. What do you think about this topic, Bal?
Well, I sort of agree with Leo. Overall, I think my opinion is that the value is basically coming from the end user applications that are being deployed on Avalanche right now. Mainly the fact that people are expecting all these big protocols to move or like to launch or to move on Avalanche. We've seen that. I come also from an academic background of distributed systems, so I love the design of Avalanche, the Snowman consensus, and all of that. Somehow, I'm not sure that is actually the catalyst right now. I think a good thing though to realize about Avalanche is it's probably one of the most scalable and most decentralized blockchains currently available, if not the only, really, because like maybe only second to Ethereum, and even then I'm not 100% sure that it's not gonna flip at some point. So yeah, like I think people are not necessarily realizing that, but I think developers are realizing that, and we've been seeing, at least since we're on multiple chains, we've been seeing some chains really struggle to scale under the load. RPCs that are crashing, gas costs that go through the roof, and we haven't really seen that with Avalanche. I mean, I'm not saying it's not coming, because it might come, right? I mean, like every blockchain is gonna have some problems at some point. It's just fundamentally, you want to support billions of users, you will have these problems. But it seems like the bar for the blockchain to really start having, scalability issues is much higher for Avalanche. And I think end users are not necessarily aware of that, but I think more and more developers and protocols are realizing that is true. And yeah, I mean, I think the future is good because, ultimately the blockchain that can support the best, the fastest throughput, or like in terms of transactions, or like the best scalability, the best decentralization, is bound to win, or like not necessarily win, but at least make a very big dent in the market and in the Ethereum, ecosystem.
Nice. One question, Toke Matrix, I think you were the one that said that DeFi is going to be like pushing and somehow is going to force evolution on the part of the, all like the normal finances, right? Centralized finances. Leo, Greg, what do you guys think? Let's start with Leo. How do you see this issue? How long is it going to take for centralized finances to really, I mean, in just traditional, right, finances start to actually respond, instead of just like pushing governments to ban or to do stuff to DeFi and blockchain? When are they going to eat? Will they do something, or will they just try to just exercise power and quiet the DeFi voices? Greg, please, and then Leo, please. Is that okay?
Go ahead, Gregor.
Sorry about that.
Sure. Yeah. So I don't think it's a DeFi versus CeFi question per se. I think the two worlds in that sense, or concepts, are here to stay. But I definitely think DeFi today has shown to the CeFi world, or the CeFi world, kind of the potential, right? I mean, we have not just from a conceptual perspective that things are not under someone's control, but also from an efficiency perspective. you can just build new products that you have never been able to build before. And this is, especially in the financial world, it is a game changer. It is a game changer for, for a lot of people, specifically living in emerging markets. I mean, that's our focus. We are seeing most of our users down the road, average people on the streets in emerging markets, who now have like $5-6 in an e-wallet and can't really do much with it. And that requires a different infrastructure and setup behind of what CeFi could do today. But I really think a little bit further down the road, there will be a lot of hybrid products. There are products, I think of an example in the insurance space. You do need insurance company for certain types of insurances, but why not leverage DeFi to underwrite some of those insurance policies? So I think there is a lot of overlap between the two concepts, but I definitely I think DeFi right now has to also overcome some challenges in terms of acceptance from regulators. I mean, there is the big topic of consumer protection law, under which all the CeFi companies have to adhere to. That's not there in DeFi. But definitely, I think we're still super early. And to put things probably in perspective, if crypto is still very early in the big scheme of things in the world, DeFi is like super early, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
baby.
Yeah.
Leo, what do you think, bro?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think it's the topic was, CeFi versus DeFi, or TradFi. How do traditional finance companies and industries react to DeFi? And I really agree with Gregor on this about the hybrid approach, where I don't think DeFi is meant to replace traditional finance, but more trying to bridge it, right? How do we encourage these traditional companies, these Visas, these JP Morgans, that, hey, if you move into blockchain technology, into crypto, into DeFi, you can actually increase your profits, lower your costs, and things like that. An example I like is like a Uniswap versus a Coinbase. Uniswap is like just 20 people, but they do almost as much volume as Coinbase, and Coinbase has like 500 employees. And that's just kind of example of how crypto and DeFi can scale at such massive levels that traditional technology, traditional processes cannot. And so I think once we get the regulations right, we get the UX is really big too. I think for retail users, it should feel like you're just using another banking app, another Venmo app, a Robinhood app. They don't have to know they're using blockchains under the hood if they don't want to. And I think that's a big part too. So just to kind of summarize, I think we're not trying to kill off companies in crypto or DeFi. We're trying to get these companies to use DeFi to merge this tech into their own tech. So that's how I see it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Can I react to that?
Machine.
Oh, did Toke Matrix have a comment? Please go ahead.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, please. Yeah, I would like to react. I think actually, I think both Greg and Leo are interesting points, but I think both of them are actually really understating sort of the impact that DeFi is going to be having. So the way I see it, sort of crypto and these wallets, I mean, it's not just a way as sort of like another smart way of routing payments. I mean, why do we need it? We have Venmo, we have these things work. There are traditional TradFi fintechs that do payments well. That is not the fundamental difference. I think the fundamental difference is that it comes with a decentralization and trustlessness. The fact that current banks, I mean, let's not be wrong about it. Like they're already doing blockchains. Like they've developed blockchains that are running between the major banks. It's not that they can't do that. It's not that they're not doing it. It's the fact that what we're doing in DeFi is fundamentally different from what they're doing, because what they're doing, their main business model is they're printing money through creating loans, and that's what's not possible. It's this element of sort of like of trust that you need in order for that to work. That's really hard to put up in a trustless system. So I mean, of course, you could set it up, but sort of like it really goes sort of against the logic. Like, why would you put something, if you have all those trustless protocols? Why would you put something in a protocol where you need to have trust? So right now we all do trust the banking system. So if you want to buy a house, you sort of like you might have your account at Chase Bank, and you sort of like you're happy to receive your payment as a deposit at Chase Bank, which is technically a liability of Chase Bank, and Chase Bank could actually default on that liability. So there are backstops in place. So in the US, there's the FDIC. So if sort of like if you're seeing that really something happened to Chase Bank, you could go to the FDIC and get your money back. But honestly, these are all like these are patches. They're sort of like they're patching a system that is fundamentally not as stable, not as safe as DeFi. I think people this is sort of like this fundamental paradigm shift will really challenge banks' business models. I also think that they're sort of like they're already doing blockchain. I think they're just too large and too sort of like monolithic and kind of like too used to having this little competition. They're sort of like it's really hard for them to compete in terms of innovation and the speed of innovation that DeFi is bringing to this space. But there's really like a much more fundamental challenge to their business model, and I think that's what people are currently sort of not really appreciating yet. And sort of like there are these regulatory debates. I'm like sort of like I know there are people in that space who understand that problem, but I don't think those are the voices that are sort of like pushing out the push for regulation. It's sort of like push against DeFi is sort of like just sort of like in parallel with the push against crypto, which is sort of like we like it's too anonymous, that it could be used for illicit purposes, whatever. It's sort of like I don't think they see this like sort of like the fundamental economic aspect has yet come through. And I think it's maybe it's a good thing because sort of like it allows us to develop these protocols further. So when we say it's trustless, sort of like, I mean, it's somewhat a misnomer because no protocol is truly trustless unless you trust the code. I mean, how many people actually check the code, actually audit the code themselves? So we need this time now to sort of like to build these products, to make them really safe and secure, to have trusted standards before we can sort of like, before we can really trust the mainstream to sort of like, expect the mainstream to sort of like really believe us that it's sort of like it's now become a trustless system. But I think once it's in place, it's sort of like there will be regulations, but like I mean the genie is out of the bottle, and like it's never worked to turn back the era of sort of like of innovation. It's sort of like it's once it's out the bottle, like there's no reason why you would want a custodial wallet other than that you don't have no alternative, right?
Right. No, it's actually a very true fact, right? And I think what all of you guys said, it's absolutely true. So I think right now in the DeFi world, we're trying to find this happy medium. Okay, DeFi, centralization, decentralization, the core ethos. But in practicality, is that happening? Maybe not so much, because we have, the user experience that we need from the CeFi side. So at the end of the day, I think we have to build true value, something that's useful. And all of you guys chose Avalanche as the core infrastructure layer to build on. So let's kind of shift topics here. And I want to ask each of you, right? What is like your core value proposition, and how are you guys expanding this Avalanche DeFi ecosystem? So perhaps we can start with Gregor.
Yes. So, when we started off, we were actually first looking how we can make things work on Ethereum. And for us, we started to look at alternative blockchains when we realized that the majority of our value proposition requires infrastructure capable to handle high volume, low value. And this high volume, low value type of use cases, it's something has always been difficult. I think even in the traditional centralized world. But once we learned about Avalanche and started to dig into in more detail, it really became obvious that Avalanche is the blockchain for us to exactly allow us to build what we had envisioned in the first space. Essentially, that was the key factor: the high volume, low value capabilities, sub-second finality, etc., and of course then. The fee structure, which is now, I think, becoming more and more obvious for everyone as well, even traditional Ethereum-based projects.
Absolutely true. Yeah. Leo, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, could you remind me the specific question and topic again?
Yeah, so like, as a Pangolin, right? Core value proposition. Of course, so your users are basically retail users, people like, the human and machine. How are you guys really creating value in the Avalanche ecosystem? And how do you guys plan to, I would say, expand and continue increasing value?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think Pangolin is unique as a DEX because it's a DAO-driven DEX. It's a decentralized, community-based DEX, and what I mean by that is we like to vote through on-chain governance on major decisions, such as spending treasury money or major product shifts and things like that. And that's a really powerful thing in DeFi because it kind of flips finance on its head. In traditional finance, it's very centralized, like the C-suite makes decisions, the boardroom. And in crypto, it appeals to a lot of people because people have a voice, kind of starts from the bottom when it comes to decisions and investments and things like that. So I think that really appeals to our user base, that our token was fair launched, there were no private investors, that they have a voice in all of this. So I think that's really powerful, and that's kind of our position on the market right now. And we do like to support all the ecosystem projects. We have so many partners on Avalanche right now. We add farms for them to support their liquidity so that people can trade their tokens. And it's really exciting to just see all the existing projects and new projects grow with us. So I hope that kind of answers the question of how we want to position ourselves here in the core value proposition.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so everybody should become friends with Pangolin, right?
Guys, let's start with Bao. What are the current main challenge of DeFi? I mean, we spoke about some, but for you, what would that be?
So I'll actually punt the Toke Matrix for a few more general answers, because I'm sure he has a lot of great answers to that. I would just talk about one of the challenges, which is what we're trying to solve with Elk Finance, which is fragmentation, right? So fragmentation of value across blockchains, but also fragmentation just across blockchains of data, of contracts, of projects, of anything. Like these blockchains, they've been built. Some of them are L2 on top of existing L1s. Some are L1s. Some, like Avalanche, you could almost argue are L0, right? And they're not really like they're basically very siloed, right? They're not really interoperable. They're not really very convenient to use from an end user, because you've got to install this wallet, you're going to connect it to 5, 10, I don't know how many chains you're interested in. Some chains don't work with the same wallet, so you need to install another wallet. You need to figure out how you can move capital from one chain to another chain where there is a project you're interested in investing in. You need to figure out how to get that money back into your Coinbase or whatever, if at the end of the day you want to cash out. Like it's a major problem for adoption, right? I mean, it's not a problem for people that are using DeFi right now, because you understand that you have to configure your RPC. Even if you're not a technical person, you can figure it out if you've been in it, right? But I'm thinking, of the, let's say, I don't know, remaining 95% or insert percentage of that you think is going to be at some point interested in DeFi. And there's lots of usability problems, but they kind of also stem from that lack of interoperability. And this is one of the things that we're really trying to solve with Elk. How far we'll be able to solve it, I don't believe that Elk by itself will be able to solve it. We're not that crazy, right? I mean, we're ambitious, but obviously I believe we are providing a building block to help solve it. And then I think as a whole, as a community, we need to figure out, and then I have no idea what that should, like, I have some ideas of what that should look like. I'm not going to say I have no idea what that should look like, but I think we're still far from having that problem solved, even with the best bridges currently, even with the Avalanche Ethereum bridge. This problem is very, very far from being solved properly. And yeah, like I'll probably, if I can, I'll probably let Toke Matrix
go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, yeah, again, like, so like the question is sort of like, was like the challenge for DeFi? I mean, I think, yeah, like all what Paul has said, I fully agree. And I think like in the bigger picture, sort of like our like where we still sort of like need to achieve to some extent, I would say, is to provide a value, to create a value proposition for the mainstream investors. Because if we're honest, like right now, the vast majority of DeFi users are like, let's use the term, it's not very nice, but are degens, basically, like people who see the high APY, so high returns, 200% returns. And it's sort of like that in itself is not really like a sustainable model, and sort of like it incurs some problems. So for example, like one problem that also Elk has addressed is that a lot of these people, like they see 300% APY, they think like, wow, in a bank account I get a lot less. They don't realize that once they're in the liquidity pool, they incur impermanent loss. So that's also another problem that in Elk we're trying to address with impermanent loss protection, which so far has been working really well. And it's sort of like, those are the things sort of like, I think it's going to be small changes, sort of like incremental changes that will create products that really look substantially different from what you're seeing in traditional finance in terms of products yet. And I think sort of like there's still quite a way to go in order. If someone on the street asks me like, why should I use DeFi if I sort of like if I don't believe those high APYs, if I think like something that sounds too good to be true is probably too good to be true, like what is like the product? And we can say, well, I mean, I think the automated market maker protocol, it's fascinating in that it's new and it's a genuine innovation, and it's sort of like a different way of providing liquidity that is sort of like has some advantages over, let's say, order book markets in terms of how it reacts to price crashes. But from an end user perspective, to be honest, like most of the time you don't really care. Like you've got some dollars, you want to buy some Bitcoin, like you can do that on Coinbase, you can do it on Binance. Like why what is sort of like the additional value propositions? I think we're starting to develop things there, but I think that's sort of like this mainstream attraction, the value proposition. That's sort of like where we're still like need to go there and sort of like try to create things that don't just depend on token distributions in the short run, because we need a more sustainable business model, and that's what we're thinking also a lot about.
Nice. What do you think, Leo? What is, in your view, the biggest challenge for DeFi?
Yeah, I think Ball and Toke Matrix made some really good points. And one of the biggest challenges right now is kind of like they mentioned, just getting people comfortable coming in here and playing around, especially as a non-Ethereum network. That's an extra step because people have to kind of get comfortable with the concept of getting money in the MetaMask on a blockchain, and then there's more layers, there's more blockchains to try out too. Yeah. And so once, I think it's people say it as kind of like the percentage concept of like getting someone from 0 to 1% is the hardest part. Getting them from 1 to 99 is easy. Once you're in here, it's so exciting. There's so many things to learn. You want to try everything, but just getting used to the fact that you can trade tokens on not just a centralized exchange, but on a decentralized exchange with a MetaMask wallet or another wallet. Just getting people comfortable with that is a big challenge that we're trying to solve.
Okay.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I think really the core problems that, align is it's just really hard to get into DeFi. Okay. Let's be honest. When we all got in, we were just scared too. But we're in here and like we're super excited. That's why we're on this panel. So
but I also maybe if I may add quickly,
Please.
I also think it always depends on who do you consider your target users, right? I mean, if somebody has not even been in crypto as of now, it is a very big hurdle to actually participate and earn some of these great APIs out there. I mean, it is just so much information that you have to absorb. Things you have to figure out, probably some money you have to lose by making mistakes and learn that way. It's a very big entry barrier for non-crypto people, and I think that is definitely a major challenge in terms of skill. The second aspect to that is also on the regulatory / consumer protection side. I mean, like all the traditional financial institutions, they have to abide by consumer protection laws. And in DeFi, I mean, we have the example of this great yields that you can earn, but what if something happens? What if a smart contract gets hacked, or the yields that are promised are actually not being paid, or let's say the UI was just displaying a wrong number? There is nothing you can do. I mean, you have put your money into something based on a set of information, but there is no, there is nobody liable for that, whether that's true or not. And I think this is the second point that is really like super important for people that are not even in the space yet. And what I am kind of what I think is important to overcome here is, or to let's say to address before it happens, is that we have like a lot of negative examples that scare people off. So I really think we now need to also make an effort to think about the users who are really the newbies, the average person on the street who has never been in crypto so far. So that's I see that as a major challenge ahead.
Yeah. So that being said, I do have a question for Verso. Okay. Say a typical Bob and Alice or a traditional tech company. They hear about all these great yields and double-digit rewards. They want to get in, but they also want to feel safe. Can you perhaps give us an example of how you could do it with Verso? Maybe linking DeFi to CeFi?
Yeah, absolutely. So like, let's take an e-wallet in the Philippines that has a couple million users that use the e-wallet on a day-to-day basis, a traditional custodial e-wallet. Now that e-wallet plugs into Verso, the e-wallet can retrieve a bunch of products. Like the DeFi products is like a category. We also have CeFi products, microfinance, etc. But essentially what that e-wallet is able to do is to offer that user a certain product, let's say a 10% yield on a 20-day lockup of an amount of a residual amount that sits in an e-wallet. So that user can actually click a button in that e-wallet and does not have to figure out how DeFi works in the first place. It's happening behind the scene. And that's the real value add for these people. And the fact that they're using their UI, their wallet partner they use anyway on a day-to-day basis, also makes it very seamless. And it's kind of an additional product they discover within a suite they're already familiar with. So that's what we're building on.
Okay, nice. Question, and this is about the community, Avalanche community. It's an open question. Whoever wants to take the microphone, please do so. How is the community? I mean, we know that there are some platforms that their communities are so like loyal and so vocal, and Twitter is full of these people. I'm not going to mention, but certain platforms that they haven't really performed at all. But man, the communities are crazy in love with them. How's the Avalanche community, guys?
And maybe Leo, go at it.
Yeah, anyone, please.
Yeah, I can go first. I really love the Avalanche community. It's just, especially from project builders like we have on the panel today, we just want to build great products for users and watch the space grow. And there's so much, collaboration. I think a term is like co-opetition, even competing products. They like to communicate and help each other. And now that we're really big, we still have that kind of vibe of just collaboration, watching the network grow. Being really close to our users. It's really great to build here. And I've heard this from other teams too. For example, the Hubble Exchange project, they have developers from Polygon that came over, they built on Ethereum, but they're like, wow, the Avalanche community is like nothing I've ever seen. It's really awesome here. So I love to hear things like that.
No, thanks, Leo. Well, Bal, Toke Matrix, do you guys have any opinion on this?
I mean, one thing I really like about the Avalanche community, I think it's compared to, as you say, other crypto communities. It's a community that really has a lot. It's sort of like has a very high share of really pretty technical discussions and sort of like looking at new projects, not just in terms of like where will the price go, what are the yields currently, but also sort of like what are the contracts like, how safe is it, like is like sort of like what is innovation there. I think that's really like a key differentiator for the Avalanche community, really a great asset.
Nice. Good.
Yeah,
Machine.
exactly. So, what do you guys see coming next within Avalanche or even within your own projects? Because, for example, Ethereum, everyone's talking about E 2.0, this and that, lower the gas fees, finally. What is it in Avalanche or even your project? What do you look forward to? Let's start with Gregor.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not a secret. We are really looking forward to the next phase of growth. We're really very bullish on Avalanche itself, but then of course also in the sense of what we have in the pipeline to really get more people into the space. And I think we are now at a very exciting point, like where we are at the very beginning of a next phase for the entire ecosystem.
Awesome. Leo, do you see the same viewpoints or something different?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think the growth here is just getting started. The technology to be able to build on this chain, on this blockchain, is really excellent. Not only the C chain, the Ethereum virtual machine compatible chain, but the concept of these subnets, these custom virtual machines that you can build within an Avalanche is not available on Ethereum. That's going to open up a whole new world of features and products that haven't been built before. So I'm also excited about that.
Do you know when that's going to happen?
I think it supports some basic development now, but the fully mature functionality is still, I think, a few months out. But once that's ready, it's going to open up a different type of building in DeFi that you can't do on just like the contract chain on Avalanche.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a question for Elk Finance, because you guys mentioned about cross-chain earlier. There was that bridge, right, from Ethereum to Avalanche. Do you think we'll continue to see cross-chain between different chains as well, developing for the rest of this year?
You mean specifically for Avalanche or in general?
Yeah, like Avalanche. For example, Avalanche to Binance Smart Chain, Avalanche to Polkadot. There's so many.
Yeah, so I would, I mean, like I have no idea what Ava Labs is planning, right? So just like to preface my answer, like I can't speak for what they're planning, right? But I would expect them to try and add support for, let's say, other blockchains. My guess is they'll aim for EVM chains initially, but I could be wrong about that. And yeah, I mean, like for like to give you an example, for example, at Elk, we've been moving. I don't want to give you exact numbers, but probably let's say $10 million, I think, in a month or so to Avalanche from other chains that are not Ethereum, because we actually do not support Ethereum. Well, we could, but we don't support Ethereum right now. We haven't launched on Ethereum intentionally, and so it sort of like, and it's a very limited product, right? I mean, it doesn't actually truly let you move value exactly the way that the Avalanche bridge lets you move value right now between Avalanche and Ethereum. It will, right? I mean, and it will actually enable like a kind of all-to-all value and data exchange across all the chains that we support, and that's what we're looking forward to launching like really soon. But we have definitely seen a lot of interest into Avalanche coming from these other chains. Now, is that enough for Ava Labs to decide that they want to build a bridge, or will they just say, like, we'll just let others do it? I don't know, right? One thing that one feature, like, and I'm not trying to advertise Elk or anything. Like one feature that people were really interested in is this ability to essentially swap Elk on another chain for gas on the Avalanche network, or like other networks, but like specifically for Avalanche. I think we've seen like tons. I want to say like thousands of users that were essentially using Elk specifically for that, to get some gas money, right, to get started on Avalanche. And I know that there have been also other ways to get that, but we've definitely seen, I think, as part of our community, people that were really interested in like they said, okay, now I've been ignoring Avalanche for a while. It looks like it's about to blow. And they were, okay, well, it just happens to be that I'm invested in Elk, and I know they support Avalanche, so they just basically used our ElkNet, like our bridge to get to Avalanche and start trading there. So yeah, I mean, like to answer it at a high level, I don't know, but I fully expect that it will happen. I think it's absolutely needed, and it's actually not just needed for Avalanche, right? To have cross-chain interoperability. It's one of the things I said was, in my opinion, one of the main problems right now with DeFi. There are other problems, but I think it's a problem that's here to stay for a while, right? I don't think there will be one solution for it. I think there will be probably multiple actors that share the market. We're hoping to be one of them. I certainly expect that you will see more bridging capabilities from the Avalanche bridge or from third-party providers into Avalanche soon. And like definitely by the end of the year, I would expect that as well.
Maybe just want to add to that. So what you're doing with Elk is actually fundamentally different from what you're doing with a bridge, because a bridge requires you to lock value on one chain and then sort of unlock that an equivalent of that value on another chain, which does raise some issues with regards to trust. So we're trying to address that by sort of like removing the need for locking up funds on one chain, and then really allowing you to transfer Elk from one chain to another chain. And sort of like right now, we're not in a fully decentralized fashion, but at some point that is our end goal. And that will allow you sort of like to have a decentralized solution and a trustless solution for moving value across chains. So that is a true innovation. That is also something that I'm still looking forward to, because I think that's something that's still missing, a truly trustless cross-chain functionality.
Completely agreed.
Interesting. We keep talking about how DeFi at some point is going to iron out all these different problems, right? And of course, I know none of you have a ball to know the future, but will it take like how long? Will it, we were talking about banking and traditional stuff. Why do people still believe in banks? Because probably we were born and we were told that banks are good, right? And they're the ones that give us money and they're good and blah, blah, blah. So we just took it, right? We just swallowed the whole thing since we were babies. Will it take generations of people actually listening to DeFi until it's like, oh yeah, it's just like banks today? Will it take that long, or will we see that happening faster? Toke Matrix, yeah, please.
I'd almost like to throw the question back to you, sort of like, what is the alternative to banks right now?
Honestly, there's none. No. For me, right? DeFi exposes it's a mafia, right? For me, okay. It's just like, how can you explain? And we have talked about these things in the program before. How can you explain a bank says, oh, you know what? We can pay you 0.01% of over your funds. How can you, how can you say that to, with a straight face? And someone else is saying, oh, you know what? Stable coin, I give you 4%, no problem. right? And they are going to court, right? So for me, but you and I, we understand it, right? But for other people to tell this is like, oh, it must be a scam, because you talk about bad about a bank is like talking bad about their mothers. It's fundamental. It's inside our DNA, or most people's DNA, that banks are good, financial system is good, governments are good, they all are taking care of us. So I get your counter question, right? And then the question is I know I'm asking you guys to answer something the public should, right? But since you guys are in there and you're feeling it, and you have your fingers right on the pulse of how people reaction in society, how long will it take?
Oh, I guess, I guess it's also a question of what do you want to achieve? Do you use a bank today to make payments? You don't need a bank for that anymore. But you need a bank to save money, to store value, then that's a completely different story. But then you technically could also use something else. You could go buy gold. I don't know. It always depends what you want to achieve at the end of the day. But I totally agree. I mean, it's like, I think the people who are already in DeFi so far, they have had a pretty good ride. So they already like it, and they'll probably stay. The question is, when is the next wave coming, and what type of people will that be, and what will their requirements be? I think it's I actually, to your question, I personally think it's a generational thing. It's a real paradigm shift happening here, and that is not something that goes quickly. There will be a lot of bumps along the way. But yeah, I guess the people, we have walked up to a bank account at some point and open an account. The new people, they do this already on a phone and never even see a bank account or an agent or a counter. And the people who are not yet born probably will not even do that. They probably self-custody everything. So I don't know, but I see it as a generational thing, and we are at an early stage now of a major shift.
Good,
Great.
agree.
All right, so I want to move into. Oh, yeah, just really quickly. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I'll give you a slightly different answer, but I think I really like your answer, Gregor. I'll give you a slightly different answer, because I want you to think the date is 1983, right? That's when we consider that the internet was born, right? That's less than 40 years ago. And look where we are today. Blockchain, or actually, blockchain, you could argue, is a bit older, but let's say Bitcoin, 2008, right? DeFi, let's I don't even know, but I would say 5 years, give or take, roughly speaking, right? And really probably 2 years, two and a half, since it's really become something like what it looks like today, right? I mean, like before it was a little bit different, right? I don't expect that it will take as long as the internet to be where we are today. And then think the internet, 1983, there was nothing. There was no Facebook. There was no Google. You didn't even have the ability to connect to the internet, right?
Not a lot of computers. Not even.
Yeah,
that.
I mean, you have to think like that was like a long time ago, but yet, I mean, like I think most of us probably weren't born, or like we're just barely born at that time, right? But think of everything that has happened, and think of what it has changed, right? Like it's basically been a full industrial revolution on its own, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I would say really my take on it is probably, I mean, this is also an answer that you probably hear from other people, but I think if we get more regulation into DeFi, or crypto and DeFi in general, people are worried about that. And I think actually they shouldn't be, because like I'll give you another analogy, right? Cars, right? When people said, like this is never going to work, cars are crazy, there are no rules, there's nothing around that. People started building roads, traffic lights, crossing signs, all sorts of rules, you needed to get a license to drive a car. You needed to get a car plate and so on and so forth. And it actually helped adoption immensely. It was not actually limiting. Of course, it depends what happens, right? I mean, if the regulators decide to ban it completely, we don't know what's going to happen, obviously, right? We can't know the future. Although I kind of take Toke Matrix view that the genie is out of the bottle now. It's not about banning it. It's just about regulating it. And maybe the sooner we get more clarity, especially in big markets like the US, like China, although that may be a little bit more tricky, like the EU. The sooner we get that, the easier it'll be for people to innovate and keep pushing. The next, I don't even think we already have a next Google for the blockchain space. Think about, there's going to be a Twitter, there's going to be a Facebook, there's going to be tons and tons of companies that build around it. They don't exist today. Maybe some of us are these, we can only hope, right?
Yeah.
But we are super early, but I think things are moving incredibly fast, right? And just look at the situation today compared to 3 years ago.
Yeah. True. If that happens, please remember that once we talk to you.
This panel happened.
Yeah, it happened.
Yeah. So I would like to close, this panel with one more topic. And I think it has to do with the collaboration aspect. DeFi is money Legos. And I think the reason why it's just expanding so fast, kind of back to it's not going to take, 40 years to get to real adoption. How can developers, right, or projects continue to collaborate with each other? And how do you see that in general? Or even how can you guys help? Maybe start with Gregor.
Yeah, I think collaboration is already happening, but it's also kind of culture, and what we see in Avalanche, it's a very open culture. Everyone has we touched on this before, is collaborating. I mean, we've had really, really great projects we collaborated with, and looking forward to others as well coming down the road. I don't know. I think it's just a natural collaboration. I guess that's very, very DNA specific to Avalanche as well.
What do you think, Leo?
Yeah, I think you nailed it with the collaboration of, it's something unique to DeFi is that projects are interoperable, their tokens, their contracts, they can all talk to each other, work with each other permissionlessly. It's really beautiful. And so as projects, as builders, we need to kind of see the success of other projects not as competition, but how do I leverage their success for our own success? Because then that's the feedback loop of everyone's success is everyone else's success. And I think that's really possible if you build and have vision in the right way.
Bal, Toke Matrix, do you have anything to say about this, please?
Yeah, I mean, if your project is connecting different projects, then obviously collaboration is second nature for us. It's so big that we're really thinking about how to set this up internally properly to be able to handle the amount of collaboration we're doing.
Yeah, so true. We are kind of running out of time, so my last question would be for all of you guys. Out of this panel, what do you guys take? One thing that you say, oh, what Toke Matrix said was interesting, or Gregor or Leo. Can you just think for a second and see what is your best take for this panel? Hopefully not that the host and co-host suck.
Well, let me start. I think spontaneously on top of my head. So what I will definitely remember is the analogy with the cars. I really like that because it's really like the clearer the rules are for everyone, the faster you can actually drive, right? And the more can happen with the space you have. Yeah, I really like that, but I also I enjoyed the conversation in general. It's we've been speaking within the Avalanche community a lot, but you typically don't see people that often with a face as well, and being able to talk as a panel. So I really enjoyed this as well. Yeah. So again, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Greg. Guys, Leo, Bal, Toke Matrix, please.
Sure, I'll go really quick. A topic that came up a lot is regulation. It's something that's increasingly on people's minds, builders, users. And so as projects, we just have to be prepared. Like, how do we still thrive under new regulations? Because like Paul said, it's actually good for growth if we can put, guidelines into the right places. It makes users safer, it makes projects safer. So we just have to learn how to build within those guidelines.
Good. Bal, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of really interesting content that we covered today. I would actually love to listen to that again, not to hear myself speak, but to hear other answers as well. So yeah, looking forward to the whole thing coming out and like being able to listen to that. I would say like one thing that really stands out. I mean, and I think this is really important. I think users also need to be really aware of that. Is collaboration, right? And like both of you guys, Leo and Gregor's answers about that, right? It's absolutely necessary. Like everyone's like one project's success is many projects' success, and then as a whole, like it's not a zero-sum game, right? And we do get a lot of that, even internally, actually, now and then. Our biz dev that are wondering, like, are these guys competitors? Or like, what should we do, and so on. Yeah, but also, from our own community, right? These guys are doing this, like, how does that compare? Who's going to win and things like that. The truth is, we are very, very happy to help someone else, achieve, let's say, a unicorn level, like super, like, like basically Coinbase-like success, right? I would love it if the next, Google, or like if blockchains Google were built using Elk, or using, some of our advice, or like some of the stuff that we've built. I would love that. Like, I wouldn't consider it a bad thing. I would actually consider it a really good thing, because like ultimately we're like, it's about innovation. It's about moving the needle, right? And I'm not giving you like a super, community type of argument necessarily, but I'm really saying it's important to be aware of that. And it's important to understand that, crypto will do, and DeFi will do a lot better as a whole if we collaborate rather than compete, right? I mean, we have all the banks to compete with already, right? I mean, let's not create unnecessary competition internally, if you will.
Okay, thanks, Bal. And Toke Matrix.
Okay, Paul kind of front ran me there, because for me also, like the collaboration aspect, that's like the key takeaway. Like it's great that you're hosting these kind of things, bringing together projects, bringing together people, introducing our projects to the mainstream. That's sort of like, if I have to pick like another one, because Paul took mine, and I would say that would be like human. Like your point is sort of like, how do we get into the head of the mainstream? Sort of like, I think that's like another like kind of like a food for thought that I'm gonna walk away with from this conversation.
Okay, beautiful. Machine, any question?
I love to keep asking, but honestly, guys, we already hit 1 hour.
Yeah.
Time flies. But I think what I would like to end off with is, we love to hear feedback from you, the watcher. So if you have any comments, what do you agree with? What did you disagree with? Or what kind of new ideas came across your mind? Feel free to comment down below. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
And you have experts right in front of you to answer those questions.
Yeah. And guys, thank you very, very much for your time, for sharing your knowledge, vision, wisdom. I have no doubt that the brightest minds in the world are moving to this space. I mean, honestly, it's a pleasure to talk to you guys. Thank you very much. Gregor Arn, CEO of Verso, Leo Chen, COO of Pangolin, and from Elk Finance, Bal and Toke Matrix. Thank you guys very, very much. And we hope to talk to you again. And all the best to your projects, to you yourselves, your lives. And Avalanche, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Take care of yourselves. Have a good one.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
It was great, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, I love how each person brings their own views and value and knowledge to the space.
Yeah. It was really
Yeah.
interesting. I especially all of them were great, and like you say, depending on what they're doing and their background, like they have slightly different views, but all in all, they also, it seems like DeFi is in good hands because they all are very focused. They all seem to understand that the enemy is not each other, right? Other companies.
Yes, exactly. A co-opetition, which actually is good because
I like that one.
yeah, everyone needs to strive for better quality,
Yeah.
better products, better
Yeah.
service.
Yeah. And hopefully they're right in all these things will, like DeFi will become mainstream or sort of mainstream very soon, right? I think it's for the best of all. One thing I think people once they are deep in DeFi, they don't realize how, what I like about DeFi is that it has democratized money.
It has, yes. And also the decision making, like Leo said, governance. So lots of really exciting things that, may be confusing at first, but if you get in, yeah, trust me, you'll be blown away.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Machine, thank you very much for your help, your wisdom, and your comments.
Likewise, and thank you for your intuition and witty comments. It's very enjoyable. So
thanks, man. Thank you.
We got to continue building.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So remind one more time our viewers, our friends, please.
Yeah. So like the video, to show us your feedback, subscribe and hit that bell icon so you can get the latest contents because we're going to be doing more of this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you for being here and see you next time.
See ya.
Bye-bye.